That bin where my sneakers are at. There's a pair of pink short pink good.
Yo.
It should be that bin.
Yo, my accuracy sucks.
Had the nerve to try to tell me that she was being the crazy one. Like, obviously you've been seeing both of us. We're not that stupid. And she even sent me the screenshots to prove it. And he still had the nerve to deny it. Kicked him out of my house and we didn't talk for a while. Until one day he managed to work his way back in. I, being stupid, forgave him and decided to try things again. It happens to the best of us. Things seemed okay again, but he told me during our time apart he was couch surfing and he didn't actually have a place to stay, like he was just homeless. So I offered to let him live with me again. That night that he moved back in, I received a call from his ex. We'll call her Ashley. And Ashley goes, no, he's been living with me this entire time. Stay tuned for the last part and follow me on Instagram. Hey guys, here's part 3 to becoming best friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. So that's when it all clicked that this man just couldn't ever be honest with me at all. From day one, and that there was no way that he was ever going to be honest with me again. So we might as well let things go down in flames. I told Ashley that she was welcome to come over. So she knocked on my door and I let her in while Bronson was still sleeping. And she walked straight to the back and woke him up. They immediately started fighting and running around my house, yelling and arguing with each other. I was so done at that point that I just sat in my kitchen with my cup of coffee and just watched. I just couldn't believe that I let a man get the best of me like this. And the best of both of us. Both of us were 100% done. No more. And we decided to become each other's support system to avoid getting back together with him. Nothing brings two girls together like a hate for a man. Now, not only is she my good friend, but she is also my roommate. Sometimes toxic men can bring two people together. Follow me on Instagram for more content, and if you have a story, DM me.
I think that my house is haunted, but I think that it's a friendly ghost. Because something happened to me this morning that I literally have no other explanation for. Little backstory, I've lived in this house for about a year. And even when I'm home alone, I never really feel like I'm alone. Sometimes the lights will randomly turn on, and sometimes I see things out of the corner of my eye. So here's what happened this morning. Usually my fiance will leave for work before I even wake up. And because I can't live without caffeine, he'll set the coffee pot up for me, so all I have to do when I wake up is turn it off. So this morning I wake up, I lay in bed for a few minutes, and then I go out into the kitchen and turn on the coffee pot. And the coffee pot is already brewing my coffee. So I text Anthony and I'm like, hey, did you have a late start this morning? Thanks so much for starting coffee for me. He texts me back and says, babe, I don't know what you're talking about. I left for work 2 hours ago. Our coffee pot doesn't have a timer on it. So, thanks, ghost friend.
It's time to remove this while I tell some very specific. Mind you, I'm in some full color. And this girl just started following me out and out. She started staring at me, so I stared back. So we make eye contact, and she's like, hey, baby on baby. I noticed that you was on the phone with somebody, but before I got to speak, she threw the phone in my face. Why did she put the phone in the camera and told me to rap this the baby song for her boyfriend? Not only was he disappointed, in his most serious voice, he said, babe, look at him. She looked at me for a little bit. She said, babe, that's the son.
No one would believe this story if there wasn't a video. In 2013, a rogue wave capsized the tugboat tugboat, killing 11 of 12 men on board. The 12th man was flung into the hallway, which was already filled with water. Panicked, he starts swimming towards the exit, but accidentally goes into the engine room where he finds an air pocket. And there this poor man sat, listening to the sounds of these huge sharks fighting over the bodies of his friends just on the other side of the wall. Total darkness, no food or water, 100 feet below the surface. 3 days later, one of the divers that was sent down there to retrieve their bodies sees a hand. He survived. Harrison O'Keen survived the ordeal and plans on writing a book.
Hey there, how's it going? I haven't had my coffee yet, so I'm really tired, but I am gonna tell you a ghost story about my haunted house as I do my makeup. So this all started around a year ago when I got a new mirror to put into my room. I put this mirror right across from my bed. The day I got the mirror, my friend decided to spend the night at my house. Keep in mind, this friend boyfriend would
skin possesses drive, passion, the power to become.
A silhouette of a person right behind the blinds who starts banging aggressively on the window. The girl stands up and goes, "I'm gonna call the cops!"
Bro, stop taking fucking shields, man.
Runs to the side door and starts pounding even louder on that, screaming incoherently. The girl runs to the bathroom, barricades herself inside while she waits for the police, and then her worst nightmares come true. She hears glass shatter in the other room. After a few minutes of silence, she opens her door just a crack to get a peek outside, and standing in her living room next to a broken window is some crazy old woman who looks over at her and starts sprinting toward her. The lady comes smashing into the door and starts wailing on it until the police arrive and take her away. She was a lunatic who had escaped her facility.
This is why you should never lick envelopes unless you want, well, you'll see. A woman in California who worked at the postal office dealt with tons of envelopes. Now, normally she used a wet sponge to wet them, but she ran out of the water, so she decided to lick a couple envelopes to get them closed. In the process of licking it, she ended up cutting her tongue. She didn't think anything of it until about a week later when she noticed a huge lump forming on the side of her tongue. The doctor took a look at it and said, "We need to do surgery to get this thing out of here." The doctor started to incise the region out, but then he noticed something crazy. Out of the hole came a live cockroach. It turns out that the envelope had cockroach eggs on it, and when she cut her tongue, the eggs went into her tongue and started forming into live cockroaches. I don't know about you, but I'm never looking at envelopes again.
This is why you should be careful what you put in the mail. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few weeks. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were two very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and the camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box. And then something gets dropped and you hear a crack. That's his neck breaking. And then you hear a squeaky garage door close.
Welcome to another story from Morning Monica. This is the story of the craziest thing that I've ever gotten away with. I was 17 and just got
got in my first car, and my friend told me about a concert that was about an hour away. Mind you, my mom is very strict and 100% would not let me go at the time. So I told her I was spending the night at a different friend's house. My friend and I went to go pick up her sister before the concert. Basically, we ended up driving an hour to get her sister and then 2 hours to the concert. So it was a lot of driving on my poor new car, which was old. So we're basically getting to the concert, and I start getting tons of texts and calls from my mom. And I kind of freak out a little bit because she doesn't know where I am really. And so I call her, and thankfully by this time she had calmed down and basically didn't really think that I was up to anything. So I got really lucky. So I was calm at this point. I was excited to have a really good time at this concert. The headliner was Major Lazer, and this is when Bubble Butt was a huge song. Get to the concert, and that's when things kind of start to get crazy. Like and follow for part 2.
Extremely toxic best friend story time. So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl. We're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid. And I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend." So then she called one of my other best friends and said, "No, it actually wasn't an accident." And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.
This boy lied about his age just to date me. Story time. So back when my cute self was a senior in high school, there was this new girl that came to our school. Long story short, me and her ended up becoming super close. I went to her house, spent the night, her family loved me. I mean, why wouldn't they? Anyways, she had a brother. We're gonna call him Binky. Me and Binky got pretty close. Now I want you guys to keep in mind.
Bro, what
Binky didn't
the
go to my school
fuck?
because their parents were divorced. So the sister who I was friends with lived with her mom, and Binky lived with his dad who lived in another city. But sometimes Binky would go to his mom's house, which is how I met him. Now that we got that out of the way, as me and Binky were getting closer, one day he asked me, "Hey, how old are you?" And I was like, I just turned 17. He told me, "Oh, I'm 17 too, but my 18th birthday is coming up." After a while, me and him eventually started dating. Then one day, I ran into his cousin.
Bro, what the
who happened to go to my
fuck?
school. The rest of the story is crazy.
This is why you should always trust your parents. In 1990, a father and his 15-year-old son were together at a gas station in Florida. One night, the boy was sitting outside on a break when he saw a crazy-looking woman walking towards the store. They were in a high-crime area, and it was very late. The boy turns around to look through the glass at his dad to see what he should do. His dad took one look at the woman and just shook his head, "No, do not help her." The woman walks up to the boy and says, "Hey, my car's broken down. Can you give me a ride?" Before the boy can answer, his dad bursts outside and says, "You need to leave here immediately." Angrily, the woman turns and leaves, cussing them both out the whole way. 1 year later, the boy's in his room at home when his dad calls from the other room and says, "You've got to come in here and look at the TV." On the screen was the same woman from the gas station. Better known as Eileen Wuornos, she was a serial killer who used to pick up her male victims at gas stations in Florida. She was later put to death. This is why you should always watch videos to the end. In 2003, a woman came home to her apartment to see that her door was unlocked. She went inside, nothing was missing, so she assumed she must have left it open. When it happened a few more times, but still nothing was missing in her apartment, she went out and got a camera, set it up in her apartment, aimed at